G'day guys, I'm D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible, and along with me, as always, is Kayla Fonte. And together, we're Between Two Hoops. Kayla, how are you going?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing really well. I actually had a really lovely long weekend here in Western Australia. A bit of country driving, but yeah, very good. Keeping one eye on the basketball, which is also another thing that we love to enjoy. Of course, we're heading into playoffs in a lot of leagues. How are you going with
Mhm.
your leagues?
I'm doing well so far. I was eliminated from a couple, but that's okay because I'm going strong in a lot of other ones. How about you?
Yeah, I think I've made playoffs in all but one. One was that World Cup that we have against the Team
hmm
Philippines. Uh, don't ever draft Joel Embiid in the first round. That's what happened. It was a high risk, low reward situation. But yeah, I digress. Everything else going pretty swimmingly. So that's always a good thing. But this is a very special episode. We're going to talk about some really special must add guys as we go into the fantasy playoffs. Shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. Headlined by Jonas Valanciunas. So must adds for fantasy playoffs. A lot of you guys are going into playoffs. So congratulations to those that did make the playoffs and commiserations to those that didn't. I'm glad that you're still watching this. Maybe you're just loving the content and just want to keep going with fantasy basketball. But also those that haven't yet quite reached the playoffs, keep this in mind as well, because a lot of the guys that we'll speak about are guys that are going to be good this week, but even down the track as well moving forward. So let's get into it, starting with our ads and holds. But our headline guy is Jonas Valanciunas, and this is an obvious one just because he was the backup to Domantas Sabonis, and Sabonis will be out. Grade 1 hamstring strain. He'll be out for at least a week, reassessed in a week, but I fear that he'll probably miss at least 2 weeks.
I think so too. I've heard some reports that a grade 1 strain takes about 2 to 3 weeks to recover. So I
Hmm.
think a week is a little bit too quick to bring him back.
I think so, and that just provides that extra value for Jonas Valanciunas. And we saw what he was able to do. Sabonis left the
Mhm.
game early a couple of days ago, and just look at those numbers for Valanciunas. So 15 points, 14 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 steals and 3 blocks. Don't get used to the 4 steals and three
Mhm.
blocks. That's not JV's game, but the 15 points, 14 rebounds on good efficiency is something that we should be used to.
Oh yeah, he's definitely going to be a double threat with a couple of blocks and solid efficiencies. So make sure to roster him. I mean, he's already pretty rostered, but in a couple of leagues, he should still be available.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was just based on name as well. And he was at the
Mhm.
Wizards. He was putting up good numbers when Alex Sarr was out, but also he was just middling when both of those guys were splitting those minutes. So now that he's got the opportunity, I think he's going to be a bit of a game changer over the next couple of weeks at least, as you were saying.
I agree.
Next, it's a lot of 76ers, but headlined by Quentin Grimes. And what an outstanding game he had the other day. He had a 40 piece.
Yeah, Grimes has been fantastic. I think that's his new career high too, which is amazing for him. I expect plenty of runtime down the stretch. I mean, especially after the Joel Embiid nudes. I just don't see the 76ers really doing much for the rest of this year. And that's also why they have two centers who are going to step up in his absence.
Yeah, Andre Drummond, Gershon Yabusele. But just going back to Quentin Grimes, he just looked really comfortable as
Mhm.
a scorer. We still see that Tyrese Maxey is still playing, but Maxey really took a back seat to Quentin Grimes the other night. And we know that Maxey is actually struggling with a finger injury at the moment as well.
Yeah, I think Grimes is going to get a lot of starts down the stretch too. And yeah, he's looked fantastic. He's still only 27% rostered, so he's readily available.
And Paul George, I hear that he's taking a back seat and not doing as much podcasting, which good on him, but and trying to focus more on basketball. But do you see him playing out the season?
I mean, I expect a couple of absences, even for Maxi too. I mean, it just doesn't really make sense for them to be 100% for every single game, right? Like they can afford to sit them out, have a couple of guys like Grimes, for example, step up instead.
Yeah, and big shout out to Nico Harrison, just traded away Grimes, who I've
hmm
always rated even since his Knicks days as well. But yeah, he has to be had. I know he shot horribly from the free throw line, but we take that when you have a 40 piece. But just look at the numbers. Quentin Grimes here, just that last game, 44 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, and 1 block. Just tremendous game. 6 3 pointers, but as I said, just 2 from 8 from the free throw line is pretty disappointing in a otherwise fantastic line.
Yeah, we can ignore that part if you just look at the threes that he's giving you, some rebounds, even steals too. I mean, some games with zero, but still pretty solid.
And before that, he did leave the game early in the previous game against the Knicks, and he's just been a little bit up and down. But I think this is a real breakout game for him. And as you said, just with a few question marks on some of the other guys, I think he's going to have a fantastic end to the season.
Mhm.
Next one, my guy, Kelly Olynyk. He's probably one of your guys as well, ex-Raptor. Now over in the Pelicans, only 14% rostered, and he's putting together some fantastic lines.
Yeah, he's been really good, and he started some games too, which has been very promising. Potential silly season hero? I think so. He's very versatile, which is great.
He's very versatile. His minutes seem to be capped in the mid 20s, which is somewhat disappointing. I was hoping to be seeing that pushed out. And also, there's potential that he will be missing back to backs. He already has missed a back to back with the Pelicans. There's another back to back coming this week on Saturday and Sunday. So keep an eye out for that. I still think he should be had in head to head leagues. Of course, fantastic play in roto leagues as well. But most of us play in head to head leagues. I still think he has to be rostered.
I think so too, and I think he's just going to get plenty of runtime. I mean, I don't really see Zion playing every single game for the rest of the season. I think they're the worst or second worst team in the West right now, so it doesn't really make sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kelly's getting about like 30 minutes per game, hopefully.
We mentioned this on our show at the trade deadline that we thought that Kelly Olynyk alongside of Zion Williamson sort of makes sense as well. You have that
Mhm.
stretch big man. He's playing the 4 spot. Zion obviously is not the greatest from the perimeter. So it really makes sense those two alongside of each other. So perhaps even Zion sitting games will hurt Kelly Olynyk's value. But
Mhm.
yeah, let's wait and see. I still think he has to be had, and he's a very popular ad right now. But if he is available, go and make sure that he is added in your league. Next one's Dante DiVincenzo, highly rostered, 64%, but he did go through a stretch of injury where he may have been dropped in your league. But since he's come back from injury, fantastic. Obviously, slowly ramping up in that first game, but since then, put together a couple of really nice lines, and he still hasn't hit full throttle, hasn't hit top gear, and played 26 and 27 minutes in the last 2 games.
Yeah, and even before his injury too, he was very up and down, which caused some people to drop him, and then the injury led to more people dropping him. So he should be available in a couple of leagues. But since returning, he's looked really good, and I think it's something that he can maintain.
I think so too. He had a fantastic game yesterday. So 24 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 steals is just outstanding. But yeah, we may not see the 5 steals ever again, but he is a very good steals guy. So keep that in mind. But yeah, go and make sure he's rostered if he is for some reason available in your league. Next one's Bol Bol. So he's a solid hold for me. He's still starting. It's interesting to see what the Suns will be doing to finish the season. Just a very disappointing season for the Suns. We're not sure how it's going to end, but yeah, disappointing last game for Bol Bol. But for me, he's still a hold.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, he is going to be up and down, so don't expect amazing production every single game. As we've seen, he can go through those stretches where he's a little bit inconsistent. But I mean, there's a lot of question marks around the Phoenix Suns right now, so Bobo is definitely someone to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and I've said on record that I'm not a huge fan of his game in general, but fantasy game that's high upside. And whilst he's still starting, and yeah, sure, 25 minutes in the last game is not great, but even in those 25 minutes, 9 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, no defensive stats, which is unusual for him. But yeah, high upside in terms of fantasy for Bol Bol. So keep him whilst he's starting. Next is Chris Dunn, and Dunn's been on an absolute tear recently. And speaking of tear, and I hope it's not this way, but I think he's going to maintain some value because we just heard that Norman Powell is also probably going to miss a few games, perhaps even a week, just with another injury.
Yeah, he's really been stepping up in Powell's absence. So as long as he's out, I think Chris Dunn just has to be rostered. I mean, he's giving you some good two-way stats too, especially in steals. Like just looking at the log here, like one game with 4, 5, 6, 3, 5. Like that's fantastic numbers.
Yeah, he's putting a lot of those games together in Power's absence. Power came back last night. I believe it's hamstring tightness or soreness. So that's something that the Clippers want to be able to manage. It's something you don't really want to force him back very quickly. So I'd expect him out perhaps a week. It's not as bad, obviously, as what it could have been, but he came back from a knee injury. Obviously, then did his felt a little bit of soreness as well. So they'll be cautious with Power. He's been a fantastic player this season, potential most improved player. But whilst he's out, I think Dunn has to be rostered.
Mhm.
Next one. It's a group of Chicago Bulls, but we'll go through. But starting with Zach Collins, Vooch has been out, and Zach Collins has really stepped up.
Yeah, a little bit surprising too, but I mean, we'll take it. He's been really solid. A couple of double doubles, like monster double doubles, like recently 21 points, 17 rebounds. That's fantastic. I mean, as long as he has that starting spot with Vooch out, you just got to add him.
And we were fans of Jalen Smith around that trade deadline, and it was sort of fortuitous for Zach Collins that Smith was suffering from concussion at the time that Vooch went out as well. So he stepped into that starting lineup, and he really grabbed it with both hands.
Mhm.
Yeah, since then, he's been fantastic, but there is a chance that Vooch returns this week.
Yeah, he's supposed to be coming back on Thursday for their road trip, but we'll have to see and just monitor updates around it.
Yep. In the meantime, Zach Collins has to be had.
Mhm.
Next one, Steph Castle. He's just been on a tear in the last 3 games. Just look at some of these scoring numbers.
Yeah, he's looked really good. 32 points, 24, 22. We all know that he can be a little bit up and down. But with the news of Wemby, I mean, what do you think about the Spurs season? Do they give the reins over to Castle?
Yeah, potentially. There's been some word that maybe Fox plays less down the stretch, and some of these younger guys just really just dominate. And Castle could be one of those guys, and he's still putting up numbers even with Fox still playing. So, yeah,
Mhm.
perhaps even thinking about down the stretch could even be getting better. But in the meantime, I think he has to be had just based on those shooting numbers. The efficiency is not great. So in terms of 9 cat, it's a little bit hurtful in terms of those shooting splits. But in terms of a points league, and a lot of our viewers do play points leagues, he just is a must roster guy right
Mhm.
now.
Definitely.
Next one, Karis LeVert, and probably again more suited for points leagues, but since he's come across to the Atlanta Hawks, he's put up some really nice numbers.
Yeah, this one has a bit. It's been a bit surprising for me, but I'll take it. Yeah, because as you said, he is a little bit more suited to points leagues. Some of the efficiency is very up and down, which is why his value kind of decreases a little bit in categories. But he is fairly versatile, especially with on the defensive end and steals.
Yeah, he's still coming off the bench. He's playing that 6-man role for the Atlanta Hawks, but he's providing that spark off the bench. And yeah, just that scoring punch where they tend to miss that. Obviously, DeAndre Hunter's not there now in the trade. So yeah, Karis LeVert, go and grab him. I think
Mhm.
he has to be had on rosters right now.
Yep.
Next one here, Keon Ellis. Now, I've got some question marks on whether or not he'll play a full allotment of minutes. Perhaps Domantas Sabonis' injury will help Keon Ellis. We spoke about Jonas Valanciunas, but if Valanciunas is struggling defensively, and we have seen that throughout his career, maybe they then go smaller and then turn to Keon Ellis.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility. Overall, I just think that Sabonis being out opens up some more minutes, even at the guard spots, which is obviously different from center, but still opens up minutes down for the whole team. And as we've seen, like with Ellis, like he's fantastic on the defensive end. That's what he's known for. Like 5 steals. Don't expect that every game, but he can definitely grab you at least a couple and a few blocks too.
Yeah, and across those last 10 games that you can see on the screen here, very inconsistent in terms of his minutes, and it just seems to be a common theme. The coaching staff, I don't know if they don't trust him, whether or not it's just the lack of offensive punch, but he's definitely improved on the offensive end. And we know that he is a defensive maestro, a real, I guess, defensive playmaker as well. Fantastic perimeter defender.
Hmm. Yeah, the minutes have just been a bit inconsistent, which could be frustrating, but he's just someone who you got to watch.
Yeah, and even in the last game, 27 minutes looks really good, but he did only play 4 minutes in the first quarter and didn't start the second quarter as well. So I know he came home with the flurry, and maybe that just is dependent on what the opposing offense is doing as well. So yeah, just keep an eye on that one. So I'm not fully convinced that the minutes will be there, but I'm hoping because
Mhm.
we know that those steals are very valuable. And the last two there, Tamani Kamara is just a must roster and only 50% rostered. There's something not quite right there because he's been an absolute menace on defense, but also offensively, he's just much improved.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising. I mean, he's a great two-way player, and I think a silly season hero too. I mean, Portland's not playing for anything, and they have so many great guys who can step up this season.
Yeah, really nice young core. But speaking of young core, Donovan Klingen, we were really hopeful that he'll just take the reins and just run with them. But he's been quite disappointing. Just look at some of these numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
last game,
disappointing.
fouled out, only 4 points, 3 rebounds, one steal, no blocks. And a lot of us are holding him for those blocks and just fouling out and only playing those limited minutes as well, 11 minutes in the last game. It's just extremely disappointing. But for me, he's still a hold in categories. In points, I'm probably okay for you to let him go in a 12-teamer.
Yeah, for points, I don't really consider him a must roster guy. I mean, you could still hold on to him if you wanted to, just because he's going to have that opportunity for the rest of the season. It's just if he makes the most of it. That's the main thing that we have to
Yeah.
watch out for.
We have seen that he is quite limited in certain aspects, particularly offensively, but even defensively, he can be a little bit slow. And we saw that even when he was starting, we were really super excited by him. We saw it against the Lakers, and they just ran him off his feet as well. So maybe teams are just, targeting him on defense and making him look a little bit lackluster. But I'm still holding him in the one league that I do have him. But short leash. He's probably the first guy that I'm willing to let go when a hot free agent comes up.
Yeah.
Now we're going to take you through some streamers, and these guys are streamers for now and potentially must-add guys. But the first two, Utah Jazz, Kyle Filipowski and Bryce Sensabaugh, when we know that the stars of the Jazz, like we saw last night, when those guys are sitting, these guys are fantastic streamers. And as we know, silly season is pretty much upon us. We're in the fantasy playoffs. These guys could be rostered right now, but just bear in mind that when the main guys do come back and they're on a back-to-back, most of the guys rested last night, perhaps all of them come back tonight. So that's definitely going to impact Filipowski and Sensabaugh. But maybe we just hold them anyway because they're going to get a great run for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think they're definitely worth holds. I mean, we all know about Utah's silly season shenanigans. I mean, Lauri Markkanen is notorious for it. Walker Kessler, I think he's about my age, but for whatever reason, he's very tired. Tired. John Collins too. Jordan Clarkson. There's so
Colin
many guys who are
Sexton,
just going to be, so many guys. So it could even be worth holding now.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously, we've spoken about Isaiah Collier, Keontae George. Maybe they get a little bit tired down the stretch. I hope not. They're young guys and they're the future. So maybe they just look for future opportunities and build some synergy with this young core, Collier, Keontae George, Filipowski, Sensabaugh. Maybe they just want to build on this going into next season. And tanking for flag is going to be very, very commonly seen for a lot of teams come silly season. Next is the Indiana Pacers duo, Aaron Naismith and Andrew Nembhard, both streamer level. Benedict Matherin's going to miss a couple of games, and we saw last night that Aaron Naismith really stepped up offensively.
Yeah, both have been stepping up in his absence, and Nemhard's good for assists. Oh my god, I forgot his name. If Halliburton never misses any time, then Nembhard value obviously goes up. But with Mathurin out for a couple of games, both of them have increased value.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, Jordan Hawkins. We didn't see it last night, but we saw it in the previous game where CJ McCollum sat resting. Jordan Hawkins really stepped up, and again, streamer level at this stage and something to keep an eye on down the stretch.
Yeah, he's only started a few games this year, but he's looked really, really good. I believe he's averaging about 20 points and a couple of threes in that role. And I think CJ's going to miss a couple of games down the stretch too.
What are we doing with Jose Alvarado, by the way?
I want to hold and just kind of monitor the situation just for now, just because he has that opportunity. And I expect some silly season shenanigans to happen for New Orleans.
Yeah, I've got him in one league, and he's on the cusp. I may look to cut because it's just the minutes. The minutes are trending down. It's really disappointing. But hey, maybe things turn around very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think you can move off him if you need to. He's just someone who I would still prefer to hold. But if he's trending down, then drop.
Yep. Cleveland Cavalier teammates and former college teammates as well, DeAndre Hunter and Ty Jerome. Great streamers, and we saw it with Ty Jerome, particularly when Donovan Mitchell rested last night. Ty Jerome just put up an absolute beauty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Cavs are just so far ahead that they can afford to rest some of their stars, which means that we'll see a lot more of Hunter and Ty Jerome. I'm a big fan of Ty Jerome. He's been fantastic this year, and I've had him rostered in a couple of leagues.
Yeah, he's probably above streamer level, but I've put him here as a super stream just because we know that what he can do when one of the main guards are out. But maybe we just hold on to Ty Jerome because the Cavs are sitting pretty at the top of the East. They're obviously going to be a 1 or 2 seed come playoff time, real life playoff time, and maybe we see a lot more of Ty Jerome down the stretch.
I think that's very likely. I mean, they could definitely afford to play him.
I think so. Next, Miami Heat duo, former Raptor Davion Mitchell. He's starting and he's playing really well.
Yeah, he's moved up in the rotation. He replaced Rozier, and yeah, he's been great. Good two-way guy.
Good two-way guy. Streamer for me, not a must roster,
Mhm.
but streamer. Duncan Robinson's in a similar boat, particularly if you need those threes. Next is Cole Anthony. We don't know what's happening with Jalen Suggs. There's a risk that he may be shut down. Cole Anthony is starting, but he is just so inconsistent. And it is quite frustrating.
Yeah, that's the problem. It just comes down to consistency. But I mean, when he gets hot, he gets hot.
Yeah, and look for when he does get hot. But for me, he's still a streamer at this stage.
Yeah.
Next is a group of 4 OKC Thunder guys. Aaron Wiggins is probably on the cusp of must add or hold because he's just putting up some fantastic numbers in limited minutes. He's not playing huge minutes, but he's just shooting the ball really well.
Yeah, Wiggins really stands out, and the Thunder are way ahead of all of the other teams, so they can afford to give these guys more minutes. And we could possibly see not shutdowns, but a couple of guys like Shea, for example, resting down the stretch.
And Chet rested or was out injured last night, so we saw Casson Wallace. He's still starting as well, but a lot more time for these other guys as well. I'm not sure if Chet will play tonight, but it won't be a long-term absence if he doesn't play.
Mhm.
Next one, Jeremy Sohan, and we'll see this quite a fair bit with San Antonio Spurs, but streamer level guys.
Yeah, so Hans looked pretty good. Even Keldon Johnson too. More of a points leagues guy, just because he mainly provides points and threes. But yeah, two guys to look at.
Yeah, maybe Keldon Johnson is a sell high, Kayla.
I think he is.
Next one, Brooklyn. We know about the Brooklyn Nets shenanigans, but Keon Johnson is just a name to keep an eye out for. He's rosterable at this stage in a 12 team. I got him. I do have him in one of my leagues. It is a games cap, so I'm able to just sort of stash him. It's a mini stash, but
Mhm.
Keon Johnson could be a real winner if the Nets decide to sit guys like Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas.
I think so too. I have him rostered in a couple of 14, 16 teamers, and I've had him there for a while, just because he has been providing those pockets of value. But I really think that he could be a silly season hero, and he's like the main guy on the Nets that I've been keeping my eyes on.
Yep, points and steals, yeah, fantastic source of those. But yeah, keep an eye out for Keon Johnson and a few of these other Nets guys, but he's one that really stands out.
Mhm.
Rashawn Holmes, Alex did return in the last game. I think he played 25, 26 minutes, but we still saw Rashawn Holmes put up a decent line.
Yeah, and I do expect Sar to have a big role for the rest of the season. But if he ever misses any time, as we know, he's been struggling with a couple of injuries. Holmes has stepped up in his absence, and he's actually been pretty solid.
He has. He has. I wouldn't go and rush to grab him now, but he has been
Yeah.
solid when Sar has missed. And finally, Kevin Herter missed the last game, but we know that Ayo Dosunmu is done for the season. He's been shut down. Kevin Herter will be a nice play.
Yeah, he'll be good. Lonzo Ball has been missing a couple games here and there, and some other guards in the backcourt. So Herder can step up if needed.
We didn't really focus on it during our ads and holds, but Lonzo Ball was on that list, but he was a more roto-friendly play because he
Mm.
will miss those back-to-backs, which is frustrating in a head-to-head situation. He probably is more prone to these rests than probably, say, Kelly Olynyk. So a great roto play, and maybe, just maybe, he's more of a streamer in a head-to-head situation. But yeah, Lonzo Ball and
Mhm.
some of these other guards, we know that Josh Giddey's just on an absolute tear and just absolutely dominating right now. But Kevin Herter, a streamer for us. Now,
Mhm.
that'll do it for our streamers. But are there any other guys? We'll just change that view, shall we? Any other guys that we should be monitoring moving forward? Just maybe on the cusp of being a streamer or an ad.
Yeah, so I actually have a handful of guys. I posted it on X, so you can see the full list there. But I broke it down based on the East and West. And I looked at the bottom 5 teams for each conference, just for some guys to keep an eye on. So it's a long list, so I'll just highlight a couple of the main names. Alex Sarr, Koulibaly, we've talked about them so many times. They're about that 50% rostered mark, but we can expect big things down the stretch for them. Even Carrington, George, keep an eye on them as well. From the Hornets, Nick Smith Jr., KJ Simpson, they've looked good when LaMelo Ball is out, and I expect him to be in street clothes a lot for the rest of the season.
Yep, I would
Um,
agree.
right? Yeah, I think it's just going to happen. I mean, we've seen this for the past couple of years, so
What do you do with Mark Williams? Obviously, when he's playing some really big minutes. He's
mm,
playing really well. But do you think that he'll start missing some games as well?
yes, 100%.
Right.
And we
Who does
know
that
who to pick
benefit?
up.
Is it Musa or
Nur-
is it
I
Nurkic?
think it's Musa. Nurkic, I mean, I don't know what is going on with him, but I'm going Musa. How about you?
Musa. Um, I'm undecided because Nurkic has been out injured, and I think he's off the injury list for tomorrow's game. So we'll see how that one plays out. It'll be intriguing
Mhm.
just to see the split there. And I don't
Yeah.
think Mark Williams is sitting that one. So yeah, it'll be an interesting watch nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Just like watch and see what happens. But I mean, Musa's been very promising, so I hope that they would give him the minutes in the start.
Yeah,
But we'll
that
have
would
to
make
see.
sense. Play the young guy,
Exactly.
but
But
making sense
yeah,
and the Charlotte Hornets don't really mix.
exactly. So monitor situation. From the Raptors, Grady Dick. You got to go get Dick if he's playing really well. I mean, we saw at the start of the season he looked really good with quickly being out.
Mm.
So
Having
got to
said
keep
that,
an eye
is
on.
Dick now injured?
Is he injured? I haven't checked, but I hope he's gonna be back soon.
We'll go check on that Dick.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
to check on that after. Chris Boucher is another guy. He's very streaky, but when he's clicking, he's clicking.
yep.
Jamal Shed looked really good, especially in playmaking too. If you need those assists, he's your guy.
And particularly if IQ does rest down the stretch as well.
Well, which he will, 100%. Yeah, I think yeah, it just makes sense. Even the big three, Scotty Barnes, RJ, they're gonna rest. Yeah.
Yeah, keep an eye on Jamal then.
hmm from the Nets, we talked about Keon Johnson already. He's the main guy that we have our eyes on. I think, yeah, he's going to have good value. Williams, Sharp, I know you're a big fan of him. And Clowney,
Big
too,
shot fan. Yeah.
injured, but he's been disappointing. But I think that if he's going to have that opportunity, I mean, he was really, really good last year in silly season. So I'm
And it
hoping
may
he's
actually
good again.
come down to when your playoffs are as well. So maybe it's
Mhm.
a stash if your playoffs are a little bit later. But if they're happening right now, obviously it's not something you really want to stash.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important to just look at timelines and injury reports and see how it
Absolutely.
lines up with your playoff schedule.
Yep.
Even Watford too, more of a deeper league guy, but we've
Hmm.
seen him have pockets of value. From the Sixers, it's all the guys that we already mentioned, but we'll move on to the West. Collier. Collier has to be rostered. He's been amazing, right? We're a big fan of him.
Yeah. Yeah. And we called it quite a long time ago. I think before most did. So we'll claim that one.
100%. A lot of Jazz guys here: Filipowski, Sensabaugh, even Cody Williams too.
Hmm.
Very limited in his game. He's more of a points guy, threes, but he'll give you a couple of stats. From the Yeah, we got Jose Alvarado. Something to keep an eye on, as we mentioned. The minutes are trending downwards, but still, I think he's going to have that role. So I want to see if things turn around.
Yeah.
Even Hawkins too.
Hmm.
Olynyk. Go to the Spurs. Stephon Castle. He's been phenomenal. A little bit up and
Phenomenal
down,
there.
but he's going to have that opportunity, I think.
Yep. And a point situation, it doesn't matter. That inefficiency is not going to hurt you.
Exactly. Yeah, even Keldon Johnson too, our favorite sell high. Sohan. I love him too. I'm a big fan of his game and his hair.
Yes. Yeah. Was it Castle
Um,
or Sohan that have the best hair on that team? Both have
ooh,
very, very nice hair.
yeah, they
And I'm
do.
jealous because my hairline is receding, so I'll take either of their hairstyles.
Yeah, even Biombo is someone to keep an eye on. Hasn't been fantastic, but yeah, he's got that opportunity with Wemby out.
Is he still on a two-way? Is he still
I
eligible to
think they
play?
converted him.
Right, okay.
I think
I
he
have to
did.
check
I
that
gotta
one.
double check
Right.
that, but
Because of the few two-way guys or few 10-day contract guys, their contracts have run
mhm,
out. So, um, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on some
I
of
have to
those
double
names as
check.
well.
Yeah, because he
Yeah,
was on the 10-day originally, and I think they extended him, and then I thought that they converted him, but yeah, something to double check on.
yeah.
Even for Portland, there's so many guys here. Kamara, Sharp, Klingon, even Scoot Henderson. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
Just ignore the field goal percentage and turnovers, and you'll be fine.
And I like
Uh,
to do that in a lot of
yeah.
category leagues as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a really common like punt. I mean, turnovers, right? What are you gonna do about that?
Yeah. Particularly
Bobo
when
as
we promote
well.
streaming. We promote streaming, so
Mhm.
turnovers is not an issue.
Exactly right. So a lot of the waiver wire guys aren't great in turnovers when they're given bigger roles, but that's okay. And yeah, Bobo. And then we also mentioned the Cavs and the Thunder, who are so far ahead that they can afford to just rest some of their stars. So Ty Jerome, Hunter, even Struce, keep an eye on him as well. Wiggins, Wallace, Caruso, Dort. A lot of good options there from the top teams. But
Yep.
that list can
I
be
love
found
it.
on Twitter.
Yep. So make sure you go and follow Kayla at Kayla_Fonte on Twitter. You can find myself at NBA Fantasy Bible. Give us a follow on Blue Sky as well. Make sure you like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us wherever you can find us and continue watching us. Make
Mhm.
sure that you do, because I know this is crunch time. This is playoff time, and this is why you follow us all season, just so we can get to this stage. So, like I said again, congratulations to those that made the playoffs, but let's go and win a chip for you. So keep following us on Twitter and keep following us on these videos as well, because we got a lot more content coming your way. But until next time, Kayla, thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Take
See
care.
ya.